What's up, guys? DMC here. I'm here today to talk to you about a very cool new product that Kandekreations has released. Basically, they have released the casings to their new Stardust chips, and shout out to Norman. He was able to get me some casings. I appreciate that, man. And I'm just doing a little review video, showing you, in terms of what we have out now. I'm using some Uber Nanos, things like that, and just comparing the cases to other casings just so you can get an idea of what they look like. I only have the clear casings, but they do have black ones, so you can make Batman casings. So that is a possibility as well. But pretty much, here is the casing. It is essentially 3 full pieces. You got the diffuser, you got the bottom piece with little prongs, and then you got the top piece with the little holes. They're very similar to like the SP3 and SP2 casings in terms of the way they are put together. But I will mention that this is one of the first casings that the diffuser is not necessarily a part. It doesn't attach to the casing itself, but when you do put it on your bulbs, the shape of it does kind of hold the casing itself, so it's going to be almost like one solid piece, as opposed to comparing it to some Micromax casings. I have just some clear with black bottoms. They're going to be about the same width, and when obviously you get a chip in here, they're going to be about the same size as well in terms of length. I will note that for the individuals that do like Micromax casings, the material in comparison is going to be a little bit softer of a shell. It's definitely not, like rubber or anything like that. Like some EL casings have. They have like this little rubber piece that's super bouncy. Or the Ergo casings. These are the FL Ergo casings. So a little harder material than those, but they are very comfortable. And if you've ever used Micromax, you probably know that where the bottom connects into your casing can sometimes be a little bit ragged or rough and jagged. There we go. But these are super smooth around all edges. The top just has that perforation of the Stardust symbol with Keck, and then we got the bottom here. And I did notice that the casing does have, or the diffuser does have 2 effects essentially. Depending on this little edge right here, there's a little flat piece. Can't really see it too well, I don't think, but there are different sizes. Kind of made me curious, and I found out that when you have it on one specific way, it makes the casing very flat all the way up, and the where the light ends up also, comes up just a little bit. But if you do turn it around, it does have a little bit more of a slant, so there is a little bit of a difference there. Now to go along with chips, so obviously the Stardust chips have not released yet. These casings are made for the Stardust chips, and when they release, obviously there's not going to be anything you have to do other than placing the chip in the casing, and you're good to go. I will say right off the bat, unfortunately, E-Lite chips do not fit. They're a little bit too thick because of the way the battery arm is. The battery arm, they will, sit inside the casing. As you can see, this is an E-Lite 1 mode, so there's a bulb in here. It does sit inside the bottom piece, but if you notice when you have it in the front, the bulb does not line up with the actual hole that's there, so when you go to put the actual casing top on, it unfortunately does not fit. If you could, if you would like, you could test it to see if, because this is not one of the programmable chips, their solders might be a little bit different as opposed to where the bulb prongs go into. So it is possible. I just don't have any to show you. Next, though, we do have, the nano chips. I do have both the Uber Nanos and the, these are the Atoms from FL and Ubers from LED. I love both of them. They both have really awesome capabilities and things of that sort. But with these, there are a couple of things that you do need to do in order to make them fit nicely in your casing. So, if you just, what I first did when I got them is I just threw my Nano right in there, and obviously I noticed that it's not very snug, so I was thinking I might have to pack, some cotton around it, or something like that. And then I found that, it was actually very difficult to get the diffuser on unless you held the chip down, had the casing on, you just squeeze it like you were turning it off after it being on. And then essentially you would hold the chip in place while you put the diffuser on. That was just too much effort. So my friend Adam, he gave me the idea of, instead of just using the normal chip in there, he took, instead of the 1225s, he took two 1620s. Just took the batteries out of the Nanos. Hang on, I just clipped my fingernails, so this is a little harder. Struggles of light shows. JK. Anyways, what you're gonna have to do is you take your 1620s, you take your battery arm, and you kind of squeeze it down gently, but still making sure that it does bend up to the circuit board, and then that should create it tight enough for you to get your 1620s. And as you can see now, the chip is a little bit bigger, which is when you slide it into the or when you place it into the casing, it fits a lot better around the edges and things like that. Now after I did that, I found that when I placed the top lid on and I had the chip in my glove, it was a little bit buggy in terms of sometimes you click it wouldn't turn on, sometimes it would just switch to the next color on accident when just throughout movement, or sometimes it would just be kind of funky. So another idea that Adam provided is I literally took just like a Ziploc baggie. Just took a Ziploc baggie and I just cut the bottom off. I made sure to measure it, like the width of the casing, and I just cut all the way across. And what I did is I just went down little sections and just cut off little squares, 10 of them. And what that created was like this little chunk of plastic, not even a chunk, this little like thin piece of plastic. But this just happens to be thick enough to create enough, take enough of that space, so that way your chip does function pretty properly. So essentially you would just put it in the bottom of the casing, throw your Nano with the 1620 batteries in, click on the lid. Doesn't really click, you just place the prongs where the holes are. Good to go. And then you take your casing and you slide it on top of the bulb, and bam, you got one solid casing, and it does not move on the inside. Now in terms of clicking, it is a lot easier to get them to cooperate. And in terms of turning them off, just hold them down, boom, your 1.5 seconds, I believe is what it says for the Ubers, and turns them off. So to compare the overall casing though, this is what it looks like next to an E-light casing. The E-lights are about the same width and about the same thickness, but these have a more natural look to them, maybe. I love the Batman style. I definitely need to get some Batman style for these as well. But I guess another really cool thing about it is, since the casing is frosted, when you go to obviously turn the lights off, woo, then you have your light on, the entire casing, not only does it light up, but it's that frosted color. So it makes, it's that frosted diffuser of the light itself. So it has, if you've ever used frosted bulbs before, specifically frosted domes, similar effect in terms of how the colors come out with it. So that's really cool. Overall, I definitely have to say that these casings are very amazing, and I'm incredibly excited to see what these Stardust chips are capable of, and pairing them with these. And not having to modify anything really to where the chips will work, because obviously these are made for the Stardust chips. But these are just a couple of things that you can use to see get your nano chip to work. Unfortunately, the E-lights do not work in them, so or Micromax chips, they're a little too long as well. But nanos can work in them if you got some nanos. And yeah, just want to give a big shout out to Norman, as I did in the beginning, and Kandekreations for providing such a cool product. I can't wait for when the Stardust chips are out, and very excited about that. And then just some personal shout outs. I gotta give a shout out to my family, Spaced Out. They're definitely some of my best friends. Really good people. Definitely really intense light shows. I love those light shows. Shout out to Yed, Impact Pals, and CCL as well. Those are all my teams that I really do feel the biggest connection with. CCL being created. But with that being said, I will quit the talking, and I will throw a light show for you all, and with these casings, with my Uber Nanos, and show you exactly, the potential that these casings have when they are going to be paired with the specific chip for them.